You're a man. You are born with the burden and the blessing of leadership, decision-making, and vision. But somewhere along the line, many men gave up that role not because they were weak, but because they were never taught how to protect their power. They were told to listen more, to be more understanding, and to make her happy at all costs. So they obeyed, they bent, they folded, and now they're lost in relationships that feel like prisons, not partnerships. Control in a relationship doesn't always look like handcuffs or shouting matches. It can look like silent manipulation, emotional guilt tripping, or demands that chip away at your masculine edge, bit by bit. It's when your decisions always get second-guessed, when your boundaries are treated like suggestions, when you're walking on eggshells in your own damn life. Too many men wake up one day and realize they no longer recognize themselves. The spark is gone. Their ambition has dimmed. Their testosterone, drive, purpose, it's all been put on mute to keep the peace. But here's the truth most won't tell you. You weren't made to be controlled. You were built to lead with calm strength, not to submit out of fear of being alone or disliked. This video is a wake-up call. I'm not here to preach. I'm here to remind you of what you already know but may have forgotten. If you feel like something's off, if you've been giving more than you're getting, if you feel drained instead of empowered, it's time to take your power back. Not by dominating her, but by refusing to abandon yourself. Let's go deeper into why you should never let a woman control you, and how to break free if it's already happening. Before we start the video, I want to remind you that my exclusive online course on mastering the dating game is available now. If you've been learning from my YouTube videos, you're only scratching the surface. This course goes deeper, teaching you everything you need to know about the dating game, from approaching a woman to building real attraction. We just finished section 5 in the course, and you won't find this information on videos on my channel. It's easy to access with a secure payment option. Visit stoicapproachtolife.podia.com or click the link in the description to enroll now and improve your dating life. 1. You lose your identity. When a woman starts to control a relationship, the first thing that disappears is the man you used to be. Not instantly, but piece by piece. It starts small. Maybe she complains about your friends, so you stop seeing them as often. Then it's your hobbies. The gym, the late-night basketball games, your weekend fishing trips, slowly getting pushed aside for her comfort. You find yourself sacrificing things you used to love, just to avoid conflict or make her feel more secure. And without realizing it, you're becoming someone else. Someone smaller, someone quieter, someone more agreeable. A man who loses his identity in a relationship becomes unrecognizable. Not just to others, but to himself. That fire you used to have? It fades. Your opinions feel watered down. You're not leading anymore, you're reacting. The problem is, the more you bend to fit her expectations, the more she loses respect for you. And deep down, you lose respect for yourself too. Let's look at a sports example. Take Mike Tyson during his prime. The man was focused, driven, relentless, but as soon as distractions crept in, toxic relationships, people pulling him in different directions, his performance dropped. His identity as a fighter was compromised by the chaos around him. You can't be at your best if your life is ruled by someone else's emotional swings. Some women will test you to see if they can mold you. Not maliciously, it's often subconscious. But once they realize you'll cave every time, they stop seeing you as a man and start seeing you as a tool, someone who exists to serve their emotional comfort. And the tragic part is, most men think being this nice guy makes them a better partner. In reality, it makes them invisible. There's a difference between compromise and surrender. Healthy relationships need mutual respect, not silent submission. If you constantly suppress your voice to keep the peace, you're not in love. You're in hiding. And hiding is the fastest way to lose everything that made her attracted to you in the first place. Confidence, strength, boldness. That masculine edge she once admired is now buried under layers of people-pleasing. You cannot be a fulfilled man if your identity depends on her mood. If you're waking up every day trying to figure out how to not upset her, you're already gone. You have to ask yourself, what did you sacrifice to keep her? Was it your passion, your voice, your purpose, because no relationship is worth losing yourself. The first step to reclaiming your power is remembering who you were before her and deciding that version of you still matters. If she can't love you as you are, with your full masculine presence intact, then what she loves is control, not you. And that's not love. That's slow death with a smile. 2. Respect fades when control begins. One of the harshest truths you'll ever face in relationships is this. Once a woman starts to control you, her respect for you begins to disappear. She may still say she loves you, she may still sleep beside you, but that deeper respect, the kind that makes her see you as her man, not just her boyfriend or husband, begins to fade. And once that respect is gone, everything else follows. Respect isn't built on being nice. It's built on strength. It's built on the way you hold yourself, make decisions, enforce boundaries, and show up as a man with his own mind. When you let her control the relationship, what she sees is a man who doesn't stand on anything. And here's the kicker. Most women don't even want the control they take. They just want to see if you'll stop them. And if you don't, the dynamic shifts forever. Think of Tony Stark in the Iron Man films. The man had flaws, ego, and baggage, but he owned them. He didn't ask for permission to be who he was. Pepper Potts challenged him, but she never controlled him. Why? Because he always stood firm in who he was. Women may push your limits, test your certainty, even try to steer the ship. But they ultimately want to know that you're the captain. When you hand her the wheel, she may take it, but she'll feel the pressure of leadership. And that pressure wasn't meant for her. That burden kills attraction. She starts to see you as passive, not protective, weak, not wise. She starts to resent you for not being the man who can say no when it matters. And slowly she withdraws. Not because she doesn't care, but because the man she wanted to submit to no longer exists. Here's the part that most men don't want to hear. Women don't fall in love with comfort. They fall in love with certainty. And when you let her call the shots every time, she stops feeling safe. She may like the power in the short term, but long term it turns into emotional fatigue. She begins to feel like your mother, not your partner. And once a woman feels like she's parenting you, the romance dies. This doesn't mean you need to be a tyrant. It means you need to be rooted. If she wants to change your plans at the last minute and you don't want to, say no. If she tries to question your values, calmly reaffirm them. If she pushes your boundaries, let her know they're not up for negotiation. Every time you choose self-respect over appeasement, you train her to respect you. Respect is oxygen in a relationship. Without it, everything suffocates. Trust, attraction, intimacy. So when you allow control, you're cutting off your own air supply. Don't mistake her bossy tone or emotional manipulation as strength. It's a test. She's trying to see if you're still in the driver's seat. If you give it up, the crash is coming. And you won't even see it until it's too late. 3. Control kills masculine polarity. Every relationship is a dance between masculine and feminine energy. That dance creates the attraction, the tension, the spark. When you're firmly in your masculine, grounded, decisive, purposeful, you create space for her to be in her feminine. Expressive, emotional, responsive. But the moment you let her take control, that polarity collapses. The dance stops. And without that dance, the relationship goes flat. No matter how much history or love is there. Masculine polarity isn't about dominance. It's about direction. It's knowing where you're going and not needing her to validate every step you take. When you constantly check in with her about how to lead your own life, when you let her steer your emotions or override your decisions, what you're really doing is abandoning your masculine center. And once you do that, the entire relationship shifts. You become more passive and she becomes more assertive, not because she wants to, but because she has to. She fills the vacuum you left behind. Look at the movie Gladiator. Maximus didn't lead by asking permission. His power came from clarity of purpose, not control over others. He didn't need to bark orders. People followed him because he stood firm, even in the face of death. That's what masculine energy looks like. It's calm, steady, focused. And when a woman feels that energy, she naturally softens. She feels safer. She feels more feminine. The attraction deepens. But when a man gives that up, the roles reverse. She steps into her masculine to compensate. And now you have two forces clashing instead of complementing. She may still love you, but she won't be attracted to you. And over time, she starts acting irritated, short-tempered, even cold. You think she's changed. In reality, you've shifted the polarity, and now she's carrying a weight that was never hers to carry. It doesn't matter how much money you make, how good you look, or how long you've been together. If you give up your masculine core, the relationship loses its natural magnetism. You start having more arguments, less sex, more confusion, less connection, because control isn't just about who makes the decisions. It's about the energy behind those decisions. When a woman leads the relationship, she eventually starts to feel unsafe. She may not be able to put it into words, but deep down, she senses that something's off. She wants to relax into your strength, but your strength isn't there. You gave it away to avoid conflict, or to make her feel more involved. And while she may have asked for that control, she didn't truly want it. What she really wanted was your unshakable presence. To restore the polarity, you have to reclaim your role as the emotional anchor. That means making decisions without fear, holding your ground when it counts, creating the space for her to feel while you remain rooted. That's what sparks the fire again. That's what reignites trust, attraction, and desire. When you lead from your masculine, everything else realigns. 4. You become emotionally dependent. One of the most dangerous byproducts of letting a woman control the relationship is that you start depending on her emotionally, not just for affection or support, but for your sense of self-worth, your mood, your confidence, even your decisions. Your emotions get tied to her approval, and once that happens, you're no longer leading, you're following, you're chasing comfort instead of commanding respect. When a man becomes emotionally dependent, he's constantly seeking reassurance. He wants to know he's good enough, that she still loves him, that he didn't mess up. He starts walking on emotional tightropes, trying not to trigger her disappointment or frustration. And the worst part? She feels all of it. A woman can sense when a man is no longer rooted in himself. It makes her feel unsettled. Even if she doesn't say it, she starts to carry the emotional load. And that leads to burnout, not bonding. Emotional dependence looks like texting her too much, needing constant validation, apologizing excessively, or adjusting your mood based on hers. If she's cold, you spiral. If she's distant, you panic. That's not a relationship. That's emotional slavery. You've handed her the remote control to your inner world, and she didn't even ask for it. Think about how many athletes crash when their focus shifts from performance to approval. A player who plays for the love of the game is dangerous. But once he starts worrying about the fans, the media, or his coach's constant praise, his edge disappears. He's no longer playing to win, he's playing not to lose. That's exactly what happens to men who let women control them emotionally. They stop living boldly and start tiptoeing through every interaction. Here's the hard truth. A woman cannot respect a man who needs her to feel whole. She may care for him, she may even stay, but the core attraction dies. Why? Because a woman wants to join a man's world, not become it. If her presence determines your happiness, she starts to feel more like your emotional parent than your partner, and once she's in that role, the dynamic becomes maternal, not magnetic. This is where a lot of nice guys get confused. They think being open and vulnerable means expressing every fear, every doubt, every emotional need the moment it surfaces. But masculinity isn't about suppressing emotions, it's about containing them, processing them internally or with trusted male mentors before bringing them into the relationship. That's how you stay emotionally grounded, not emotionally needy. To reclaim your emotional independence, you need to build a life where your center doesn't revolve around her. A life with purpose, discipline, and connection to something higher than the relationship. Your goals, your mission, your code as a man. When that's solid, you bring presence into the relationship instead of pressure. She's not supposed to be your emotional lifeline. She's supposed to be your companion on the journey, not the reason you're walking it. The moment you place that weight on her shoulders, the whole thing starts to collapse. 5. Control breeds silent resentment. When you give up your power in a relationship, resentment doesn't come crashing in like a storm. It sneaks in slowly, like a quiet fog. At first, you don't even notice it. You tell yourself it's fine that she makes all the decisions. You tell yourself it's okay to always adjust your plans, suppress your thoughts, or hold back your true feelings. You call it love, patience, maturity. But deep inside, something starts to rot. And that rot is resentment. You begin to feel a quiet bitterness, not just toward her, but toward yourself. You start questioning why you can't seem to say no, why your needs are always second, why you feel like you're performing instead of living. Every time you let her override your instincts, you lose a little more of your self-respect. And that loss doesn't go away. It builds up, it hardens, it turns into a voice in the back of your mind that whispers, "You're not a man anymore." The problem is, most men never voice this resentment. They bottle it up, they smile through it, they play the good guy. But underneath that smile is a deep anger. And that anger either turns inward and becomes depression, or it lashes out at the worst possible moments. You snap at her over something small. You withdraw sexually. You start fantasizing about freedom. Not because you don't love her, but because you no longer love the version of yourself that exists in the relationship. You see this in so many marriages. The man who's quiet at dinner, the guy who stays late at work just to avoid coming home, the husband who looks like a ghost of who he used to be. He didn't get there overnight. He got there by constantly silencing himself to keep the peace, by avoiding conflict instead of standing his ground. And now he's bitter, not because she's evil, but because he never told the truth. He never said what he needed. He never drew the line. Think about a coach who lets his players run the locker room. At first, the team likes the freedom. But eventually, chaos breaks out. No structure, no leadership, no direction. And who do they blame when the team starts losing? The coach. Even though he tried to be liked, tried to avoid being the bad guy, in the end, he still loses their respect. It's the same in relationships. If you won't lead, if you won't enforce your boundaries, if you won't say, "This is who I am and what I stand for," you end up resenting her for stepping into the role you abandoned, and she ends up resenting you for making her do it. Resentment is the slow death of desire. You can't fake your way through it. You have to stop the rot at the root by being honest. Honest about what you want, what you won't tolerate. And most importantly, who you refuse to stop being. You can't kill resentment by avoiding conflict. You kill it by reclaiming your edge. A man who gives up control in a relationship loses far more than influence. He loses his sense of self. You weren't born to be molded, managed, or muted. You were built to lead with presence, purpose, and power. When you reclaim that role, everything shifts. The respect returns. The polarity reignites. The resentment fades. You stop surviving the relationship and start owning it. Not with ego, but with quiet strength. This isn't about controlling her. It's about never letting go of yourself. Stand firm, set the tone. Be the man she can follow, not the one she has to manage. And remember, if you're serious about mastering the dating game, don't miss out on my exclusive online course. We go beyond what's covered in these videos, giving you powerful insights from the first approach to lasting attraction. It's easy to enroll with a secure payment option. Visit stoicapproachtolife.podia.com or simply click the link in the description to secure your spot. Don't wait until it's too late. Take action now and start transforming your dating life today. I want to especially appreciate you for taking your time to watch till the end of this video. I hope the video helps you improve every aspect of your relationship with women. Until next time, this is Stoic Approach to Life. When you give a woman space, something powerful happens. She begins to feel something deep, something she won't necessarily admit right away, but it's real. In the modern dating world, men often panic when they feel a woman pulling away or needing distance. They chase, they text more, they overthink every word. But here's the truth. When you give her the right amount of space, it triggers a shift in her emotions, a shift that can make her crave your attention more than ever. You see, women are not wired to respond well to men who are always available. The constant presence can feel suffocating, predictable, and honestly boring. But when you step back, when you show her that your world doesn't revolve around her, something changes. She starts to realize what she could lose. She begins to see your value in a completely different light. This is the dynamic that too many men miss. They fear the silence and think that stepping back is a sign of weakness. But in reality, giving her space is one of the strongest moves you can make. It puts you in a position of power without you having to do a thing. By showing that you have your own life and you're not afraid to let her miss you, you unlock a level of attraction that only grows with time. In this video, we're going to break down exactly what happens when you give a woman space. We'll dive into the emotions she experiences and how this tactic can shift the power dynamics in your favor. Forget the desperate texts and overthinking. Let's talk about the real impact of giving her room to breathe. Ready to understand the psychology behind this? Let's get into it. Before we start the video, I want to remind you that my exclusive online course on mastering the dating game is available now. If you've been learning from my YouTube videos, you're only scratching the surface. This course goes deeper, teaching you everything you need to know about the dating game, from approaching a woman to building real attraction. We just finished section 5 in the course, and you won't find this information on videos on my channel. It's easy to access with a secure payment option. Visit stoicapproachtolife.podia.com or click the link in the description to enroll now and improve your dating life. 1. She starts to miss you. When you give her space, something shifts inside her. It's subtle but powerful. Women need to feel that you're not always right there, waiting for their next move. The moment you step back and stop being so available, her mind begins to fill in the gaps. She wonders what you're doing, who you're talking to, and why you're not constantly reaching out to her. In other words, you've sparked her curiosity. This is one of the most powerful feelings a woman can experience, the longing for something she doesn't have constant access to. When you're always around, it's easy for her to take you for granted, but when you give her space, you become something rare. And let's be honest, people are naturally attracted to things that seem hard to get. So, by not constantly being in her face, you've suddenly made yourself more intriguing. She starts to miss you, not just physically, but emotionally. The emotional distance you create when you pull back allows her to process her feelings about you without being overwhelmed. She starts to see things from a new perspective. Suddenly, you're not just the guy who texts her all the time or constantly tries to make plans. You're the man who has a life outside of her, which makes you stand out. The thing is, it's not just about physical absence, it's the emotional space you give her. She gets the time to wonder about you, which inevitably makes her appreciate you more. She won't immediately show it, and sometimes she might even act indifferent, but deep down, she's feeling the absence. The truth is, when you stop chasing her and give her the space she needs, you stop being predictable. And unpredictability, that's a huge turn on. The very act of you stepping back makes her realize she can't have everything her way, and that's when she starts to miss you. Think of it like this. When a woman is always with you, she gets used to your presence. It's only when you pull away that the emotional intensity kicks in. She'll start questioning if she really wants you in her life or if she's just gotten comfortable. In her mind, she'll begin weighing the value of having you around. And when you give her the space to think this through, it allows her to make an emotional decision, not just a logical one. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. If I give her space, won't she forget about me? The answer is no, she won't. What actually happens is she starts to develop a deeper emotional attachment to you because she's had the chance to miss you. 2. she begins to respect you more. One of the biggest things that happens when you give a woman space is that her respect for you grows. Sounds counterintuitive, right? After all, we're often taught that to keep a woman's attention, we need to be constantly giving. But in reality, the opposite is true. When you stop chasing, stop over-giving, and stop always being available, you send a message that says, I have my own life, my own interests, and my own worth. Respect is a key factor in any successful relationship. It's not just about being liked or desired, it's about being held in high regard for who you are. And women respect men who have a life outside of them, who have the strength to stand alone. When you're constantly available, constantly seeking her approval, it undermines your own value in her eyes. She knows she can have you whenever she wants, and she might take that for granted. But when you give her space, you're telling her that you're not desperate. You're not willing to sacrifice your life or your principles just to win her affection. That's powerful. It forces her to take a step back and look at you differently. She starts to see you as a man who has something to offer outside of the relationship. And that shift, seeing you as someone who is self-sufficient and not just revolving around her, is incredibly attractive. She may not express it immediately, but deep down, she'll begin to see your value in a new light. The fact that you're not constantly vying for her attention means that you have options, and that makes you more desirable. The reality is, men who are constantly pursuing women are often viewed as needy, which is a huge turnoff. But men who know when to step back and let the woman come to them exude power and confidence. This space also gives her the opportunity to reflect on what she truly values about you. When you give her time and room, she's no longer distracted by your constant presence. She can think about the things that make you stand out, the things she really appreciates about you. This pause, this break in the usual rhythm, creates an environment where respect is earned rather than demanded. She's not being bombarded by your neediness, and instead, she gets to decide on her own terms how important you are in her life. This is also a chance for her to recognize that you're not just some guy who's simply available for her convenience. You're a man who has a sense of direction, a man with his own goals, ambitions, and purpose. That kind of self-assurance is magnetic. Women respect men who are strong enough to walk away when necessary, not out of anger, but out of strength. This in turn makes her value your presence more when you do decide to show up. 3. She becomes emotionally invested. When you give a woman space, she begins to emotionally invest in you in ways she may not even realize at first. The irony is that by pulling back and giving her the space to think, you are actually creating an emotional connection that is much deeper and more lasting. How does this work? Simple. When you are constantly available, the emotional effort she needs to put in is minimal. You're there, right? You're always around, so she doesn't have to think much about you. But when you step back, when you give her the room to miss you, the emotional investment naturally increases. Think about this. Emotional attachment is largely built on scarcity. People don't realize the value of something until it's not always available. When you create that emotional distance, she starts to reflect on you more. She starts asking herself questions like, why am I thinking about him? Or, what is he up to? Her thoughts naturally begin to center around you, and this brings her emotional investment into play. By stepping back, you allow her to do the emotional work that's necessary for attachment. Without your constant presence, she's forced to fill in the gaps. When she feels a lack of your attention, she will subconsciously start to search for ways to close that gap. It's a natural process. The more space you create, the more she will begin to seek ways to emotionally connect with you again. What's crucial here is that by pulling back, you've created a scenario where she has to take initiative. And that's what makes her investment even more valuable. A woman who has to work for your attention, even just a little, will naturally begin to put more effort into maintaining the connection. This is how you avoid the trap of being a man who's always chasing after her and start becoming someone who is the object of her pursuit. It's not just about her missing you, It's about the mental and emotional work she starts to put in. As she fills the space you've created, she's also subconsciously building a stronger emotional bond. When you're always available, the emotional work is one-sided. You're the one doing all the reaching out, all the effort. But when you give her the space, you flip the dynamic. She has to put in more emotional effort, and as she does, she begins to feel a deeper connection to you. Another powerful element here is the psychological effect of unpredictability. Women are drawn to men who are emotionally unpredictable in a healthy way. This doesn't mean playing games or being hot and cold. It means not always being there at her beck and call. You're showing her that you're not predictable, and this emotional uncertainty can increase her attraction to you. As she becomes emotionally invested, she starts to feel like she needs you more. She may not be able to articulate it, but she will start to feel a sense of urgency. When you give her space, it's like opening up the emotional gap that she feels she needs to bridge, and as she works to bridge that gap, her emotional investment deepens, leading to stronger feelings of attachment and desire. 4. She starts to appreciate your value. When you give a woman space, something powerful happens that often gets overlooked. She starts to truly appreciate your value. It's easy for someone to take you for granted when you're always around. You become part of the background, something that's always there without much thought. But when you step back and give her room, she suddenly realizes how much she misses your presence, your energy, and the value you bring into her life. Think about it. When you're constantly available, there's no room for her to reflect on what makes you unique. It's like a person who has a great book sitting on their shelf but never opens it because it's always there. But when the book is removed, they might start wondering about it, recalling what it has to offer and wishing they had it back. The same happens when you step away. She starts to recognize your worth because for the first time in a while, she's not taking you for granted. Giving her space lets her see the gap that you leave when you're not there. This is when she begins to realize how much she values the things you bring into her life, the emotional support, the humor, the shared experiences, and the way you make her feel. All of these things become more apparent when you're not constantly around. Space allows her to process and appreciate these things without being distracted by your presence. And when she comes to the realization that you're not always there, it makes her want to appreciate you even more. She might not immediately express it, but as the days go by, she begins to understand the significance of having you around. She sees that you're not just someone who fills time in her life. You're someone who adds depth, meaning, and value. It's in those quiet moments when she's not hearing from you that she starts to realize how much she took you for granted when you were always present. When you pull back and give her the space to think and reflect, you're also showing her that you have your own life, your own boundaries, and your own priorities. This isn't a sign of weakness or a lack of interest. Quite the opposite. It shows her that you don't revolve your entire existence around her, which is an extremely attractive quality. Women respect and admire men who have their own passions and goals. They don't want to feel like they're the center of your world all the time because it can make them feel suffocated. When she starts to see that you have your own life, she feels a stronger sense of admiration. She recognizes that you're not dependent on her to feel validated and that independence is what makes you stand out. 5. She becomes more attracted to you. When you give a woman space, one of the most interesting things that happens is that her attraction to you grows. It's a paradox that often takes men by surprise. The less you chase, the more she chases you. By pulling back and not constantly seeking her attention, you shift the power dynamic in your favor. Instead of you pursuing her and her feeling like she has all the control, you create a situation where she has to come after you. This dynamic is incredibly attractive to women. Why does this happen? The answer lies in something known as the scarcity principle. Simply put, the more something is scarce or hard to get, the more valuable it becomes. When you're always around, always available, she doesn't have to put much effort into maintaining your connection. You're easy to get, and human nature often tends to undervalue things that are too easily accessible. But when you give her space, when you pull back and allow her to feel your absence, your value increases. When you stop chasing her, she starts to feel like she has to work a little harder for your attention, and that effort ignites her attraction to you. It's a subtle shift in the dynamic, but a powerful one. Instead of you giving her your attention on demand, she now has to earn it. This forces her to focus more on you, on your actions, and on your intentions. As a result, she starts to see you as a man who is in control, someone with boundaries and standards. And this is magnetic to women. This process doesn't happen overnight. Initially, she might feel a little confused, maybe even frustrated. But as time goes on, she'll start to recognize that you're not just another guy who's going to drop everything for her. You're a man with your own life, interests, and priorities. When she begins to see that, she'll realize she has to put in more effort if she wants your attention. The attraction she feels for you grows because now she's emotionally engaged. She's not just attracted to what's easy. She's attracted to the challenge of winning you over. Another element at play here is the psychological effect of unpredictability. Women are wired to be attracted to men who are a little bit unpredictable, who keep them on their toes, who don't reveal everything about themselves right away. By pulling back, you introduce an element of mystery. She's left wondering what you're up to, where you are, and what you're thinking. That mystery keeps her mind occupied with thoughts of you. The more she thinks about you, the more attracted she becomes. But it's not about playing games. It's about creating space for her to genuinely miss you. When you're always around, she doesn't have to miss you. The magic happens when you're absent just enough to stir up feelings of desire. She'll start to crave your presence because she's not getting it on demand. She'll feel the void, and that's when her attraction to you increases. 6. She realizes her feelings for you. When you give a woman space, it's not just about making her miss you. It's also about allowing her the space to process her own feelings for you. Often, in the fast-paced world of modern dating, people rush from one interaction to the next without taking the time to reflect on what they're truly feeling. By stepping back and creating some emotional distance, you allow her to slow down and really consider the relationship, the dynamic between you two, and whether or not she sees a future with you. In the absence of constant communication or your presence, she starts to ask herself more meaningful questions. What does he bring to my life? How do I feel when I'm around him? What do I want from this relationship? These are the kinds of questions that only arise when there's some room for self-reflection. If you're always in her face, she doesn't have the mental or emotional space to reflect on these things. You're a constant in her life, and while that's not a bad thing, it doesn't give her the time to step back and truly evaluate her feelings for you. When you step away and give her the space she needs, you force her to confront her emotions. This doesn't mean she'll have a moment of realization right away. But over time, the absence of your attention and presence will create an emotional void that she can't ignore. It's in this void that her feelings for you begin to crystallize. She starts to realize just how much she cares about you. Or if she's unsure, she'll take time to figure it out. This period of space also allows her to better understand what she truly values about you and the relationship. When you're always available and constantly showing up, it's easy for her to overlook the things that make you special. But when you give her space, she's able to reflect on the traits that drew her to you in the first place. She may begin to recognize the depth of your character, the way you handle challenges, or even the way you make her feel when you are present. Additionally, this space gives her the chance to gauge the importance of the relationship in her life. Women often need time to sort out their feelings, and when you're constantly around, it can become difficult for her to clearly see where you fit in. The space allows her to determine whether or not you're someone she truly values and wants to continue investing in. It's a critical moment in the relationship, as it's during this time that her true feelings will begin to emerge, whether they're positive or negative. What's powerful about giving her space is that it also brings clarity for both of you. Instead of constantly pursuing her and making her feel pressured, you've allowed her to come to her own conclusions. 7. She values your independence more. One of the most significant shifts that occur when you give a woman space is that she begins to value your independence more. In the context of modern dating, independence is an incredibly attractive trait. It shows that you have a life outside of the relationship and that you don't rely on her for your happiness or fulfillment. When you step back and give her the space to miss you, it allows her to witness the depth of your independence, and this only strengthens the dynamic between you two. In today's world, many people are accustomed to constant communication and availability. Relationships can often feel overwhelming because they lack a healthy sense of individuality. However, when you give her the space to breathe, you communicate something very powerful: that you have your own life, your own interests, and your own goals. This sends a strong message that you're not chasing after her to fill a void in your life. Instead, you're already whole and you're inviting her into your life, not because you need her to complete you, but because you genuinely want to share experiences together. This sense of independence is attractive because it signals strength and emotional maturity. Women are drawn to men who are self-sufficient, men who can handle their own emotions, who have ambitions outside of the relationship, and who maintain their sense of self. By creating space, you subtly reinforce that you're not just available to her whenever she needs you, but that you have your own boundaries and your own needs that deserve respect. This dynamic establishes a healthier, more equal partnership, where both people maintain their independence while still enjoying the benefits of being together. When you step back, you're also showing her that you don't feel the need to monopolize her time or attention. Many men, when they're interested in a woman, can fall into the trap of becoming too available or overly eager. This can be a major turnoff, as it can make them seem desperate or lacking in confidence. On the other hand, by maintaining your independence and respecting her need for space, you show that you're comfortable being your own person. This comfort in yourself, without needing constant validation from her, is extremely appealing. Moreover, by respecting her space, you encourage her to do the same. Healthy relationships thrive on mutual respect, and when you make it clear that you respect your own time and boundaries, it naturally sets the tone for her to do the same. When she begins to appreciate your independence, it cultivates an environment where both of you can have fulfilling lives outside of the relationship without the pressure to be together every second of the day. This strengthens the emotional bond because it prevents feelings of suffocation and dependency, and instead, it nurtures a relationship that is built on mutual respect and understanding. This shift also makes her more invested in you because she knows you're not going to be clingy or overly attached. In the end, giving a woman space is not about distancing yourself emotionally, but about creating the conditions for attraction, respect, and genuine connection to flourish. It allows her to miss you, evaluate her feelings, and appreciate your independence, which all contribute to a deeper, healthier relationship. Space isn't a sign of weakness or detachment. It's a powerful tool that signals confidence and emotional maturity. By respecting both your time and hers, you give her the chance to value you more, ultimately strengthening the bond between you and creating a dynamic that works in your favor. And remember, if you're serious about mastering the dating game, don't miss out on my exclusive online course. We go beyond what's covered in these videos, giving you powerful insights from the first approach to lasting attraction. It's easy to enroll with a secure payment option. Visit stoicapproachtolife.podia.com or simply click the link in the description to secure your spot. Don't wait until it's too late. Take action now and start transforming your dating life today. I want to especially appreciate you for taking your time to watch till the end of this video. I hope the video helps you improve every aspect of your relationship with women. Until next time, this is Stoic Approach to Life.